Okay, so I've now got my plan loaded up, and due to a little bit of a bug in Eclipse, we just need to do one more thing before we can start adding fields, and that's to create another plan that will then allow us to plan on that. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to do a new plan, and then Next, and then Next, and then OK, and then Next. And then next. You kind of get the theme here. Lots of nexts to get us to this point here. And then OK again. We're going to select Shoe Variant 1, which is OK again. Right then, so this is our first field that it's popping on. So my first field is going to be my anterior field. And we're going to use 10 MV as it's a prostate plan. And then I'm going to click OK. So it's labelled it as Plan 1. I'm just going to rename it again to something that I'll remember, so it sticks out as mine. So I'm going to call this MC2, and I've now got my MC2 plan there. So before we do any planning, let's just familiar ourselves with the volumes that we've got on here that we want to plan. So I'm just going to left click down in that left hand corner to make the fields disappear, and then I'm going to maximize this screen here, and we can make this a little bit bigger by clicking on the magnifying glass and drawing a box around it. And you can see here, I'm just going to scroll up and down, we've got a number of volumes on there. We've got our PTV, which is our blue line, our purple line, which is our prostate and seminal vesicles, our orange line there, which is our rectum, and then there's our femoral heads there. Okay, so that's the things, the structures that we're going to use to plan with. So before I put anything extra on, I'm just going to tick the beam so it comes again, and I'm going to change this so it's a beam's eye view, this top right hand corner. So right click, top right hand corner, and select a beam's eye view. And we can see here now that we've got a square field with no MLCs on, and we can see the skin render there. So before we do anything with that field, we're going to position the isocenter in the correct place if it's not already done that. So hopefully Eclipse will default to somewhere that's reasonable inside our PTV, and we can see this circular mark there, and there is our PTV. Now mine looks pretty good where it is, pretty much in the middle of the PTV. If I wanted to change it, I could left click on the arrow up there, left click on my field name there, and I can pick that up and move it somewhere else. I might just move it a tiny bit more out there so it's well in the middle there. So that's perfectly, not perfectly, that seems as close to the middle as we need it to be there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a DRR onto this, a digitally reconstructed radiograph. So I'm going to right click on my field name, and unsurprisingly we're going to click new DRR there. Lots of different defaults. We're going to go for the bone one because that's the one we're interested in, and then click close. And then I'm going to get rid of this external contour. And in fact, I'm going to untick, we can untick lots of the structures, so we're not too interested in many of them at the moment. Let's just untick everything other than the PTV. So we can see here we have our PTV with our leaves around it. Or without the leaves around it, should I say. So what we need to do next is add some MLCs to form a shape around our PTV. So I'm going to right click on Ant again, and I'm going to do new MLC, and then I'm going to, up on this top bar here, you can see we hover over and it tells us what things are. We're going to do fit to structure, so I'm going to do click on there, and if you remember, a margin of about 0.5 all the way round is a good margin to get us in the kind of right ballpark for PTV coverage, so it gets around the penumbra of the beam. And we're going to optimize the jaws, but we're going to leave the cull rotation unoptimized, and then I'm going to click fit, and we can see there that we've now got a field that has formed an MLC shape all the way around our PTV. So what I need to do now is copy this field 3 times and change the gantry angles to create my 4 field plan. So I'm going to show you how to do one, and then I'm going to leave you to do the remainder. So I'm going to right click on Ant, and I'm going to do copy field. So it's very similar to using other Microsoft bits of software on Windows. So copy and paste works on lots of things. So we've copied it, we can now paste the field. And this time I'm going to have a left field and click OK. So it's done a direct copy of that field, and what we need to do now is swing that round to 90 degrees. So there's a few ways we can do that. We can click on the field itself, and I could drag it round if I wanted, something like that. I could right click on it and go into properties, or I can manually type the gantry angle down here, which is probably what I would normally do. So I'm going to type 90 there. But what you can see has happened is that the MLCs I've maintained the shape as they were before, which isn't much use to us. So what we're going to do is left click on the MLC there, and then click up there again, and I'm going to fit around there. Okay, so that's left us now with a field with an ant and a left field. Now, one thing we need to think about, thinking ahead, is where we want our collimator angle to be for this patient. So we know that we're likely going to need a wedge in this plan. So I want you to just have a think for a moment about where you commonly see wedges in which direction and on which field on prostate plans. So I'll just give you a few seconds to have a think about that. And the answer is more than likely we're going to need them on the lateral fields. And if you remember, on an electronic dynamic wedge, we're limited to the collimator angle that we can have to kind of define the direction of that wedge. And just from experience, I know that this needs to be either 90 or 270. It doesn't make a difference. And if you're unsure about why, then give me a shout and we can talk about that. So I've spun that round, and that's now, again, the MLCs are the wrong shape, so I'm just going to set them back, and I'm going to do that and fit. Okay, so now I'll leave you to copy the remainder of the two fields. So right click and paste, and then change things to where they are, and pause the video now and have a guess where you think the collimator angles for each of them should be. So I've now set my plan up with what we might call a 4-field brick, and if we look down at this bottom table here, we can see I've got a gantry 0, 90, 180, 270, and I've labelled them ant, left, post and right. If you want to change the name of them, you can just double click there and type that in, and hopefully you've had a think and guessed that the collimator on the other lateral needs to be at 90 or 270 as well. And what I've done is I've made all of my MLCs 0.5 bigger all the way around. So if I click on each of them, the MLCs, we can see they're all that a little bit bigger. And so I'm now ready for my first calculation. So there's two ways you can do that. You can go to planning. In fact, there's 3 ways, I'm lying. And calculate. You can hit this figure here, this little icon there, or you can hit F5 as the shortcut. I'm sure when you've done this a few times, you'll just start hitting F5 as the shortcut. So I'll leave you there with this video, and we will pick it up in a moment on the next one.